If that was you on the phone and you on the bus, then who was flickering the lights?
That's a bit like the reaction we all had to the breaking news from the NBA. Brad Stevens has moved on as head coach of the Boston Celtics and has moved up to be the team's president of basketball operations, replacing Danny Ainge, who is retiring, according to the team. Our Adrian Wojnarowski, who broke the story, says the Celtics are expected to start a search for a new head coach. The team has scheduled a press conference for this hour. We'll have more from that later on in the show. But Brad Stevens is fourth all-time on the Celtics head coach win list, trailing only Red Auerbach, Tommy Heisenholm, and Doc Rivers. The big difference is all three of those guys won a title in Beantown. Boston made 3 Eastern Conference Finals, but was never able to advance to the NBA Finals, much less win one, in 8 seasons with Stevens as coach. So now we're joined by Woj here on SportsCenter. Woj, how did things come to this for Boston for both Ainge and Stevens?
Ryan, Danny Ainge has been thinking about stepping down as the Celtics president for months. And he had considered, a number of different possible succession plans with ownership. It's a conversation they have had. But ultimately, and I think after talking with Brad Stevens, who was ready to move on from coaching, it became a situation where Danny Ainge retires, and now Brad Stevens becomes the president of basketball operations, certainly with no front office background. There is a good staff around him in Boston. He certainly can add to that. But now it'll be Brad Stevens leading a search for a new head coach. But Ainge, after 18 years in Boston and winning that one title, he decides to step away. He's calling it a retirement now. There's certainly some thought around the league that there may be more opportunities for him down the road.
Okay, we'll see what happens with him. Now, with Stevens in a front office role, the Celtics now have a vacancy at head coach. What names are you hearing that could replace Stevens?
Well, here's the one thing, Ryan. This is going to be a coveted job. It's the Boston Celtics. You have an infrastructure of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, good players. Watch as these playoffs go on. There could be more candidates available to Boston than who are available now. We know things change. Teams get eliminated. Teams make decisions about their futures with coaches. So I think the candidate pool may increase, or maybe there still won't be any changes among those playing. But Boston's going to have an opportunity to really take a look at the landscape. And Brad Stevens, who's certainly well-versed within this coaching profession, is going to have the ability to have a great deal of say in who his successor is going to be. But this, I think, is a job that any number of candidates, including those who may be employed elsewhere, would love to get involved in.
Absolutely. One day after being knocked out of the playoffs, big changes in Boston. Adrian Wojnarowski bringing us the latest. Thanks, Woj.
And now for a different perspective, Kendrick Perkins won an NBA title with the Celtics back in 2008. He was later traded by Danny Ainge. So, Perk, what's your reaction of this news coming out of Boston today?
Well, you know what, Ashley, I saw it coming. I talk with Danny Ainge a lot, and a lot of times we don't even talk about basketball. We just talk about life. And he always talk about his grandkids and his children. He's big on family, and I could kind of feel it leaning towards that way. I mean, you got to understand, Danny Ainge drafted me. He got that job in 2003 when I was drafted, and he traded for me on draft night as a Boston Celtic. So I could see him stepping away because he wants to be around his family. He wants to enjoy his kids. He wants to enjoy his grandchildren. So this doesn't surprise me one bit.
All right.
Really made.